talking about, again, one of the culture assessment questions was, do you make decisions based on your mission, vision, and values? Our mission statement and our vision statement was long, and folks did not know it. It was dusty, it needed to be dusted off, and it needed to be improved in a dramatic way if we were going to actually make that something real and tangible, again, not just for the few staff at the top, but for all 500 plus employees. So we rebranded our mission, vision, and values. We made these our epic values. We shortened them. We made it punchier. We visualized it across. It's basically sitting in every office and in every hallway across our programs, that we're going to be about excellence. We added professionalism. One of the things that we saw with the workforce as the struggles increased in people's personal lives, we saw an overall decrease in an expectation around professionalism, and we wanted to be different. So we wrote that into our core values. Integrity, and then compassion. And we've started a whole initiative around compassion to ourselves, compassion to each other, and compassion to those we serve. So we really made our vision and values come alive in a way that I think we hadn't before, which again, I just believe is just one of those foundational pillars of what every organization needs to be. Do not let your vision and values just be something that a few people know about, that a few people talk about at quarterly board meetings. It's got to be something that actually has some life to it. So speaking of compassion, going into the next thing we did is we have leaned heavily into, and I would really encourage everybody on the call to look at this. If you want to go to the next slide, Allison, is we have leaned into an initiative all around compassion. So there's a wonderful book out there by an author that we actually had on our podcast recently called Compassionomics, and it's all about the science behind compassion in healthcare. And this might seem like a no-brainer for a lot of folks on the call, but you'd kind of be amazed at this. But there's the science behind the act of compassion. I think we talk a lot about empathy in this space. We talk a lot about trauma-informed care in this space, but that can kind of fly over non-clinicians' heads on what exactly you mean by that. But compassion, which is really empathy in action, has so much science behind it, both from a employee wellness standpoint, but also an outcome standpoint. There's actually studies in the medical world that more or less, if you're a patient receiving a medical treatment and you receive that from a less compassionate nurse versus a more compassionate nurse, your outcomes and actually how that medication impacts and influences your body are going to be higher when received by the compassionate provider. So it literally and physiologically changes things. So we landed on a mantra at New Hope called Start with Compassion. And the idea was that in every interaction, every one-to-one, every meeting, we are going to start with compassion, start with personally checking in on everybody, checking in on how they're doing, checking in on how their life is outside of New Hope, checking in on their families. And that was going to be our defining characteristic. Another thing we did that is in progress, but I think it could be a game changer, is since we do a lot of residential work, and this is mostly shift change work, right? So we have 2 or 3 shifts at all of our facilities, and we have groups that come in on first shift, second shift, and third shift, and weekends and nights, is that we are having everybody do loving kindness, compassion meditations at shift change. So if you come in to New Hope and you're starting second shift, when you do your shift change moment, instead of just talking about the day-to-day and the minute-to-minute and who's struggling and what Johnny's up to and what Billy needs and who's got a therapeutic leave today, everybody's pausing and actually doing a 5-minute compassion meditation. And this is all based on loving kindness meditations out of the Eastern traditions, and it is an incredible thing, because if we think about how many of our workforce are coming from challenging and stressful home environments and challenging and stressful community and life stressors, then they come into work and clock in and basically immediately hit the floor or immediately start working with families. I mean, it's kind of mind-boggling what we're asking them to do. And so we actually started doing this meditation exercise to begin everybody's day. If you're a professional staff, we're expected to do it at the beginning of the day. If you're a shift-based staff, you're expected to do it at the beginning of your shift. Me and my executive team just got done doing an executive planning session. We started that executive planning session with a 5-minute meditation. This could be uncomfortable for folks. We did a lot of education. We're actually providing a specific kind of New Hope-based